Hi, and welcome to Functionally Fit. I'm Jenn Rice, and I am so glad to be interviewing Tracy Hill today. Tracy, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Tracy is out in Arizona. I am recording this from Naples, Florida, and we were just talking about how there's a lot of migration happening and different people kind of moving around, and a lot of people moving to uh, places like Arizona and Florida. And we got to talking a little bit about, health in general. And I think that actually, if we were to back that conversation up, Tracy, we'd probably see that people were doing that for their health somewhat too, because of maybe a lower stress in life and being able to work from anywhere. And so I would like to think a lot of people are keeping their health in mind in some of these decisions. And that's probably why we're seeing a little bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tracy is a physical therapist by trade, and she is a neuroscience coach. And she really specializes in mastering, kind of those stories that, and I'll let her tell you in her own words, but the stories we always tell ourselves that kind of keep us in place and affect our motivation. So one thing we can say about the folks moving to different places, they are taking action. Am I right? So
Right.
welcome. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you got started in physical therapy and that journey for you.
Yeah. So I got into physical therapy, probably like most physical therapists, started as being an injured athlete and wanting to help myself get better. And I just ended up, I loved the profession and I loved the side of physical therapy different than, I don't know, what I saw in a lot of the other healthcare professions of this, like, let's just look at the symptom, give you a medicine, and move on. I always wanted to know why. Why did you hurt? Why did your knee hurt? Why does your back hurt? Like, what were the things that led up to the current issues that you have going on in your body? So that was kind of my start and my beginnings. And in 2010, I actually went through a fellowship program of applied functional science. And that opened up the world to me of how we really needed to treat the person, not just a body part. Looking at, people have a mind, body, and a spirit. Like, we can't just look at the problem that hurts and fix it. It was, we got to look at why. Why does it even matter? Pain doesn't matter if we don't have a driver behind it. And I remember those people who would come to me of, why are you here? Well, my back hurts. Yeah, but why are you here? Well, my doctor told me to be here. But why? Because if you don't have a why, if it doesn't matter, pain doesn't matter. Is it because you can't pick up your kid? Is it because you can't play? Is it because you can't go on vacation? Because you can't run that marathon that you've always wanted to do? And so that's where I wanted to help these people understand we've got to get to the why, but we also have to get to the why of why the pain came to begin with. So that's where like the journey started for me of really wanting to get deeper. But as I dove deeper into physical therapy and treating more people, I realized how many people were stuck and how many people were on antidepressants and dealing with anxiety, and they knew all the information. We know as a general population that exercise and eating well is good for us. We know that it can help manage pain and give us more energy. We all know that. That's not no secret. But why can't it stick for most people? And it really frustrated me in the clinic to, really help someone and give them all these great solutions. And this is why your knee hurts. This is why your back hurts. And these are the things that you need to do to be able to manage and control this so that you don't need me in 6 weeks, so that you can do all these things. Yet they kept coming back of, well, I didn't do the things that I was supposed to do. And that's when I realized like there's something more.
So you mean like just so that when they would go home with like kind of like a homework of care at the house,
Yeah.
They would not take an active role of
Right.
doing it, or just didn't see maybe the value in it, or just maybe could it even be that they just didn't want to complete sometimes with you? Or I'm just
I
kind of.
think, yeah, I think it's so much of all of it. It
Hmm.
was, okay, did the thing help you feel better? Yes. But then you didn't keep doing it. No. Why not? And it was it was a variety of different reasons of, well, I thought I was fine. Well, I don't have time. I mean, how many of us have said that? I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to cook a healthy meal. I've got, and 2020 and heading into 2021, all this good stuff. We don't have time. Like, and on one token, we were given a lot of time last year. But if you're like me and you're a working mom, you ran out of time. And so the excuses are high. But here's the thing, the excuses are always high. Like, there's always going to be an obstacle. And that's where I started seeing, people want it. Everyone wants to feel good. Deep down inside, everyone wants to feel good. Everyone wants to look in the mirror and feel good about their body. Everyone wants to have energy and be able to enjoy their life. But why do we stay stuck? Why do we look at that person and think, it's too hard? And that's where I wanted to dig a little bit deeper.
Well, as you were saying that, I was thinking about how oftentimes certain behaviors, and the more I learn about this and listen to more experts about this, and anxiety, pain, sometimes there's a reward for having these symptoms linger through, whether it's validation from family member or support system, and if it puts this whole other layer of your identity can get wrapped with, I have this injury, or I have this ailment, or condition, and this is, but I think we then, it's like forming an attachment around a condition, so much so that it could form its own block, right?
Absolutely. And so that's the person who's saying, I want it so bad, but I feel so stuck. And so it's like you've got the gas pedal going on, but you also have the brake at the same time. And that's where our neuro coaching model plays into this. And so what you just said, like, okay, we have, and this is the process that we take our coaching clients through, is like, okay, there's a situation that comes up, and that brings up these thoughts of, well, it's just my genetics. Well, it's because I have this. Well, that time when you were 8 and you were picked last on the soccer team? It's just because I'm not an athlete. I'm not good enough. That time that your coach told you that you were a little too heavy, or that your aunt told you that your genetics aren't good enough, and it's just hard to be healthy and lose weight when you're a kid. Those thoughts come up, and they're running on autopilot, and they're literally driving everything that we do, and we don't even hear them. And so that's why, like, all this hustle and motivation, and I want it so bad, it doesn't work because they're playing on this repeat cycle. And so then that brings up all these emotions of like, well, I can't do it. I'm never going to be able to do it. It's too hard. And then we start, again, then we have these beliefs about ourselves and about our bodies and about what we can and cannot do. And from there, everything that you believe drives every decision that you make or indecision. So it's, if I believe that I can't manage my diet, then my decision is going to be, well, screw it. I might as well eat extra pizza and ice cream because I blew my diet at the birthday party this past weekend. So we've got these decisions that lead to our actions or inaction, and that leads to our results or the lack of results.
I have to tell you too, like, this can be planted by healthcare providers too, often, like doctors, NPs, PAs. I had a friend of mine was telling me, I actually ended up working with her a little bit for functional medicine, but she was placed on blood pressure pills. She was about I don't know, mid 40s, and she hadn't had a blood pressure problem before, but it kind of crept in. And she was literally told by her practitioner that when she said, well, I'm okay to go on it now, but I'm hoping that it will be something I can get off of at some point. And she looked right at her and she said, you're never getting off of this.
Yeah,
And and I don't think she meant any obviously harm in saying that to her as a patient, but what it does is we have to be, and it reminded me, since I practice, as a PA still, and see patients and counsel them, like our words matter and how we choose them. And when we
hmm
use things like never and forever, and it can be very, it can stack it against it, because it actually is very possible that she could come off her blood pressure medicine. She's not
absolutely.
94 and, you
Right.
know,
Yeah. Oh, and
immobile.
I love that you brought that up, because as a physical therapist, I saw that all the time of, well, my doctor told me I can never squat again. Well, my doctor told me I can never bend again. Really? Are you telling me you're never going to sit on the toilet again? Because that's a squat. Are you telling me that you're never going to pick something up off the ground? And so, because we have, doctors are educated, we are told to believe them. And that's programmed in us. And so now this highly authoritative person is telling us, well, you can't do this. And so now the brakes go on of, well, you go to the gym and you go to this workout class and they're doing squats and reaching and stuff like that. And your brain's saying, oh, hang on, I'm not allowed to do that. I can't do that. And so then we stop ourselves. And so it was actually really cool. We had one of our last cohorts, a client in Australia, and she legit had some medical complications that caused her to have some chronic low back pain, some chronic leg pain. It was real stuff. But she was so stuck in that trap of everything that her doctor told her about all the things that she couldn't do, that she was frustrated and her weight struggled. And she would go through these like, forget it, I'm going to try. And then she'd peak up and then she'd get hurt. And then her brain would say, see, you can't do it. And then she'd fall back to square one or ground zero, basically. And it was these peaks and valleys. And instead, we allowed her to, hey, let's look at how you can do this successfully. No, maybe you can't do this particular thing, but let's look at this type of exercise. Find success in your body. And that's where we really like to emphasize with people is, let's find the success in your body. So often, and physical therapists are 100% notorious to this, physical therapists want to point out everything that's wrong with your body. Because when you come to a physical therapist, chances are there's a lot of things that your body is not functioning properly. But when we beat that into a person of, you're doing this wrong and your body doesn't do this, that already is putting up a block to this person. So when we can instead look at a person and say, hey, here's what your body does well, let's meet your body where it is today, and then let's build upon your success. And that way, we can eliminate those stories of all the things that we can't do, of all the things that we're bad at doing, and get to more of the root issues.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the things that I've really been, because you never know exactly which direction podcasts will take when you start them. And for me, I have been really fascinated by learning more and more about movement, which I would have thought would be one of my least likely topics, so that maybe I would have been delving more into, like, I don't know, thyroid antibodies or who knows what. But I feel like when we break things down to the really simple action things, and finding that movement you love doing, being able to um, figure out how to move your body daily in a way that's healthy for you, and then it'll spill over into so many other areas of your health. And then also, I probably your success level. I mean, do you have any particular story? I mean, you don't have to name any names or anything, but like, as far as for your workshops, do you have anyone in particular that had like a lack of movement, and then with that, bringing this in, like, changed like their motivation? And like, do you feel like, because some people just say, oh, I'm lazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are really lazy or we're just kind of like tired or not excited. I read something like, you're not lazy, you're just not excited about anything or something like that.
Totally. And again, those are these beliefs of I'm lazy, I just can't stay motivated, I just can't stay consistent. And you're absolutely right. Like if you're not excited about it, then your brain is automatically again going to put that roadblock. And we're programmed to think that like health has to be hard, it has to be restrictive, it has to be like you got to sweat and grind. And some people that just triggers them for whatever reason. It brings up a big trigger to a lot of people.
Like the thought of
And
CrossFit to me would be like, oh my gosh, like
mhm,
I would already have like injury thoughts just by, but yet, people do
yeah,
it and they're fine. But
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, when your brain already thinks like, oh, I have to do this thing to be healthy. I have to work out for an hour and sweat and be in this gym then to be healthy. Well, forget it, because that's not an option for me. When gyms shut down last year, forget it. It's over. My gym's closed. I can't be healthy. There's nothing I can do. And that's where these stories and these beliefs come into play. Um, and then, again, with the like, your body doesn't move well, someone who does deal with chronic injury, one of our ladies, she had chronic plantar fasciitis
mm.
in both feet. And that is a nasty injury and it hurts. If you've ever had it, it's
I
awful.
haven't, but I know I have people who have, and they call me and they write me and they ask me what they should do, and I'm like, ugh.
It's
I know
awful. And
dermatology and some parts
yeah.
of it. I don't know what to tell you.
And this is a woman who, she wanted to be active, but every time she tried to, and she liked to hike and she liked to go on walks, but it started hurting. And she was to the point of, do I need to get surgery? And again, we helped her rewind of let's find success in your body. Let's build upon that. Let's erase all those stories of all the things that you can't do. And she's hiking now. She's walking now. And that was without us even laying hands on her of doing all the traditional physical therapy things. That was working through some of her stories and her beliefs about the negativity that she was holding in her body for
Yeah.
years.
Do you think that that's I always say though, when somebody does ask me about plantar fasciitis, if it's a friend or something, I definitely do ask them, have they checked their stress? Are they, because inflammation is usually at the root of, or some kind of chronic inflammation, chronic something can trigger
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, how many of us are holding chronic inflammation in our bodies, chronic stress in our bodies? And it's not the fact that you bent over to tie your shoe that blew out your back. It's the series of all the little things that led up to it. But we tie it to, oh, last time I bent over, I blew out my back. Therefore, I should never bend again. And that's the belief that gets stuck in our heads. And that's the belief that keeps us stuck of all the things that we can't do, of all the things that's wrong with our body. Instead of, okay, let's rewind. Let's get to the root of where did this all start?
So when you begin to talk about the mind stories, um, are people usually pretty forthcoming, or are they like, are they sort of like, I don't know, I don't really say anything to myself, or I don't really think I'm saying anything, but is it something like subconscious too, or?
It definitely requires a lot of question and, of
Mhm.
digging a little bit deeper. Because if I ask you just, well, what do you say to yourself? We don't straight out say, I'm not good enough. We don't straight up say, I'm not worthy of health. But when we start asking a little bit more why, a little bit more why, for example, one of our ladies, the one that I was talking about earlier with the chronic back pain, she she seemed to have a lot together. She was doing relatively well. And we kept asking more questions. And it turned out that she was angry at herself because she let herself get to that place of feeling like garbage. She let herself get overweight that now she was mad at herself. And now, even though, and it was amazing because she like blurted it out one time of, I don't I guess I'm not worthy of being healthy because I did this to myself. Like that was her belief, is you did this to yourself. You got yourself in this position, so it's your fault. And that, it was the most beautiful thing when she blurted it out. She stopped, and because she didn't realize, like, she was like, that was the first time she ever blurted that out, and she was kind of taken aback. She's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that was the first time those words came out of my mouth. And so, no, we don't straight up say I'm not good enough. But when we start looking at all the things, and like I said, that little story when you were a 12-year-old girl being picked on for your weight or being picked last on the team, those stories hold on to us. And it's this chain that's pulling us back. No matter how much willpower, no matter how much motivation we have, it's just like, it's this tugging back there. And so that's where in our neurocoaching model, it's, we got to get rid of that story. Like we have to, it's because again, it's not just like, oh, just push it aside and tell that story to go away. No, because it's so strong of a story because it's been there since you were a child. We literally have to cut that story and we have to reprogram it with a new story. Otherwise, the old story is going to continue to run on autopilot no matter how you do it, no matter how much you want it. So that's that person who's like, yeah, like I want it so bad. I'm tired of feeling like garbage. I'm tired of feeling stuck. But what the heck? I feel like there's just something blocking me. And that's what it is.
So is this pertain to all ages? Is this, you know, could you be quote unquote like too old to do this kind of neuroscience, almost remodeling? You know, because someone will say like, I don't, you know, all this, the story that, oh, can't teach an old dog new tricks. And then people, oh, I'm too old. You know, there's a lot of things. There's another thing that people say, well, I might be too old.
There's another, that's another belief.
Right.
And that's 100% a belief, is I'm too old for this. I can't change. And what, absolutely, you know, the older we get, the more, because those programs are so stuck in us. So for sure. But there's actual, I mean, this is not just about like, let's think positive and manifest things. This is like actual science where we used to not think that we could change the brain. But we've actually learned that we can cut old things in our brain and we can literally reprogram the brain. It's like a stroke victim. They used to believe once you had a stroke and that damage was done in that central nervous system, it was over and you were never going to walk again or move your arm again or whatever it was. And then we started seeing, hang on, we can actually reform new brain networks. And this is, I mean, it is miraculous that we can reform new brain patterns, but we have to cut the old program. And of course, it takes some work, but when we can cut the old program and then replace it and start automating it with the new program, now we have this roadmap for success. Because before we had this drive, but the roadmap was telling us something different. The roadmap was telling us we're not good enough and we can't and we're too old. But now we start automating this new program that actually serves us. And now health stops being so hard. How many of us have said it's so hard to be healthy? Well, it's hard because it's something that's new. It's hard because we have a story that continually tugs on us and makes it feel hard.
Well, and I would argue that it's really hard to go to multiple specialists and deal with modern medicine the way it is today, and be a person that is in the hospital these days with all the different layers of issues that go on. And not that, I mean, we have still one of the best medical systems, I guess, in the world. However, there's a lot of things lacking, and it is, you are pretty much, no one's coming to save you, like you are on your own. Certainly if you have a major trauma or you need a structural problem fixed, yes, we're very good at that, but these smoldering chronic things, certainly mental health aspect. And then I think neurology wise, I was listening to some neurologists that we're talking about, Alzheimer's, dementia, and the importance of really movement and brain activity in general, keeping sharp on things. I can see a difference between, let's say, people that are still engaged in some kind of either work or passionate, maybe purpose or cause, versus someone that's like, I pretty much just don't have any plans all day, all the time. Which in theory, to a lot of us sound like, oh, that'd be amazing to just sit around and never have to be any, but that's not really good for our brains.
Right.
And I think that the more they talk about movement and making sure that we have something that we love doing, and that we understand the things that we say to ourselves, and can really it'll improve our health overall for sure.
Yeah.
Because the
And,
dementia and
going,
Alzheimer's numbers are off the
yeah,
charts. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And, back to the movement piece of, you were talking about the CrossFit, and
Uh,
it is about like, find something that your body enjoys. Again, like, so many people have this belief of, I have to do this exercise to lose weight, to be skinny, to be healthy. But it's, hey, move your body. Find
mm-hmm.
something. If that's a 10-minute dance party, then great. Something that gives your body energy. When I was in the clinic more, I was a very avid runner, and I've run a lot of marathons, and I'm a less avid runner now, but but people would always look at me and think, "Oh, you're skinny because you run." Well, no, I'm skinny because genetically I'm blessed this way. But yes, I like to run. But then they had this in their head of, well, I need to run to be skinny like you. No, you don't. Do you like to run? Well, no, I hate it. Then you're not going to be successful running, because if every day it's this, oh, I have to grind and do this thing that I hate, again, your brain is saying, why would I want to do that? Our brain's job is to keep us safe. Our brain's job is to automate most of our day. Like 90% of your actions come from purely automated things. And so when we have to hustle and force ourselves to do something, that's taking way too much energy from good old brainy poo, that it doesn't want to work that hard. And it's going to say, no, I don't want to do this. And so then it pulls back, and then you fail. And then you say, see, it didn't work. I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this. And then that's even more evidence for your brain to say, oh, you just can't be healthy. You just can't do this. And until we cut that story, it's going to keep going. That hamster wheel of health, of the motivation, the hustle, the failure, back to ground zero. That's why it continues to happen.
Yeah. So when you would say, this is great, by the way, I think this is such good information, so much value here, because sometimes it's not enough to just, even those that subscribe to lifestyle medicine, let's say, and they've been given 30-minute, a lot of people hear 30 minutes a week, and they're like, oh, but I don't like to run. I don't like to swim. I don't really like walking that much. I'm not much, but there are so many things, from videos to Tai Chi to, like, it doesn't have to be, like you say, sweating out. And so I think that you can find a lot of things that you don't maybe want to do, but you only have to find a few things you really love to do. Like, I'm
Yeah.
someone that could, like, walk out the door and just walk. And if I just walked, if we walked, and I can pretty much maintain a good body weight without ever doing a lot of, and it matters, of course, how everything else is going with you health wise. But I think that can be, what would you say is one of the biggest, kind of misconceptions or myths around the whole, neuroscience, or would you say, like, that, I know some people may feel like these things are just temporary, or it doesn't really, it can't possibly, it works for other people, but it doesn't work for me, or you have to have had you have to have a huge motivation, like like a reason, like a stroke or a this or that, like, or a fear of that. I mean, what would you say is, like, the biggest thing that people kind of come to you about, that aren't sure if this can be right for them?
Um, Well, I think most people are saying, I've done it all.
Oh,
I've I've tried all the diets, I've tried all the exercises, I do all the things, I've done it all. It hasn't worked. Well, I ask that person to rewind and say, well, if we keep doing the same thing, why would it keep working? And so again, we're operating from this system that it doesn't work. And so instead, what we do is we almost reverse engineer it because we're told, do this, and then you will have the thing. Do this, and then you will lose the weight. But instead, we're going to rewind and we're going to say, you're going to start just being a person who's healthy. And what does a person who's healthy, what does a person who has energy do? How do they act? What does their day look like? And all those pieces. And when we start like deep inside, we know what we want, and deep inside, we like are being that person, then we start operating like that person. So instead of, you see the cookies sitting on the counter, and normally it would be this like grind for the willpower not to eat the whole dang box. Instead, it's how do I want to feel? Who do I want to be instead? And now we start making our decisions based on that. And I'm not telling you to never eat the cookie. But when we are going to operate from this person of, I know exactly how I want to feel, and I know how that food makes me feel, I'm not going to do that. I love pizza, okay? It does not love me. And sometimes I will make the choice to eat the pizza because I like it. But I also go in there knowing this isn't going to honor my body and this isn't going to be the greatest thing, and I'm going to feel kind of blah, but I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy the pizza party with my kids or whatever. But then there's also going to be times that I'm going to look at the thing and say, I know how I want to feel, and that's not honoring my goal. That's not honoring how I want to feel today in this moment. And now it's not a hard decision. Now it's not this decision of willpower. I have an entire box of, I don't know if you know what the crumble cookies are.
mm.
I don't know if it's an Arizona thing, but it's these cookies that literally weigh like 12 pounds. I'm not even joking you. And some people would see that box of cookies sitting on my kitchen counter. It was my kid's birthday, and they would be dying right now. And I look at them and I think, oh, they're so good. And I walk by them. Why do I walk by them? It's because I say, I don't want to feel that way. I had them with my kid. It was fun. We celebrated his birthday, and that was honoring to me, and that was honoring to him. And I didn't feel guilty about it at all. But now, 2 days later, I think I don't want it because I don't want to feel like that. So when we start operating, instead, we flip that switch in our brain and we start operating from being that person. It's not a hard decision anymore. And it's not about the hustle and the grind and the willpower. And that's where it's beautiful because now it's freedom.
Yes. No, I love this. It's so true. I know I've been on a journey personally for the last 3 years plus, and it's initially you think, oh, it seems like a lot to bite off, but then you kind of just take it one step, day after day after day after day, and but it is something that I could see that having someone to help guide you would be really wonderful.
Yeah.
And I
And
know that you guys have or you have a master your motivation workshop. Now, do you do this in partnership with someone, or is this you that,
yes,
okay.
so Jessica Midkiff is my business partner. She's also a doctor of physical therapy and a master neuro coach as well.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And so with your, and you have a Facebook group that if someone's listening and wants to check it out, what's your Facebook group called?
Our Facebook group is called Hardwired for Health. And
Hardwired for Health. Okay.
yes, and we are on Facebook and Instagram as Be Journey Strong.
Be Journey Strong. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And we'll link these up in the show notes too. But I know that we wanted to make sure that people, heard about and knew about, well, just a little bit more about you and kind of your background, and then how this can help them, which I think we had some great examples. I mean, I know I was taking a lot of notes here, and Mastering Your Motivation workshop sounds like something that they can obviously learn more about right through the Facebook group or through reaching out to
Yeah.
you. And we'll put that in the show notes. But I so appreciate you taking the time coming on to the podcast today. Yeah, and we hope you'll come back and share more. I mean, I know we could go on and on about.
I know we could probably talk all day.
There's so much to the brain component, and brain health can never be underestimated. We definitely take that for granted, and how powerful it can be to our overall health for sure. So thank you so much for being here.